Hello. Yes, today is the 7th of July 2025. A few thoughts. Actually, I'm going to go through them quickly, just things that are on my mind. Actually, I have 10. I will deal with them very quickly, just to mention a few. I think I'll call this video something like, "Remember you are disposable." Not you, not you or me, but you remember in olden times, during the Roman Empire, when the general who had succeeded in battle would have, while they had the triumph, the parade, he would have a slave here saying, "Remember you're mortal." Yeah. I'm just wondering whether politicians today, and certainly some countries and some Western leaders, I was going to say, but not necessarily Western, this is spreading, whether they should be reminded that if they are to in some way betray their country or not look after the interests of their country first, but trying to please others, more powerful ones, that someone should remind them, remember that you are disposable, because you will be used either as a leader or as a country. You will be used, and then you will be thrown out when you're no longer useful or convenient. And I don't know, I can think of many cases at the moment. I can think of Ukraine, for example. Do you realize how these things are, how we got to this point, little by little always it seemed, during talking about Ukraine, from at the beginning, when the war started in 2022, right? We were told Russia had invaded, so it was a war between Russia and the Ukraine, and poor little Ukraine there, and everybody brought out their flags and everything else. Okay, then some people were saying, this is not just Russia against Ukraine. This is there are a few more countries here, Western countries, and no conspiracy theories. And then we realized that yes, it was other countries that were actually helping Ukraine. And then we kind of put two and two together, and then it ended up that it was NATO actually versus the Ukraine, and then it was everybody else, and it was little. So the first questions when we were saying this is the hegemon, this is the West, the United States and NATO, no. And it ended up that yes, it was, and they have accepted that this is the West against Russia. I think is accepted by everyone now. Yeah. And now we are seeing, so the same thing with Iran. First of all, it was they were going to have nuclear weapons, next week, in 2 months, in 3 hours, and whatever it was. Then, not quite. It was not that. That was perhaps the excuse, but really is regime change. Yeah. By the way, why do they call it regime change? It sounds so clean and neat. Is that what we used to call a coup? The illegal overthrow of another government? Is that what we mean? Because regime change is more than a change. I don't want to say regime change anymore. I thought about it. No, this is a coup, yeah? And now we are seeing it with, Azerbaijan and Turkey. What are they up to? Could it be that they're sort of kind of plotting, whatever against Russia to. Do I detect the British hand there, sort of creating a little bit of chaos and disorder? My point is simply, what are they promising them? What is Azerbaijan being promised? What is Turkey being promised? To help the expansion of the Ottoman Empire again? I mean, what is it that they are being promised, that they are, to me, falling into the trap of the West? Remember, I would tell them, remember, you are disposable. I remember when I was a little girl in my study of history, I think I told you this before, ages and ages ago. In the history of Spain, we used to learn about when the locals were fighting the Romans. At the very beginning, of course, Spain then became a very important province of Rome, and actually gave Rome quite a few emperors. But at the very beginning, when the locals were fighting against them, there was an incident that stayed with me because it sounded so honorable. 2 local leaders were promised monies and wealth by the Romans if they would betray their country. And they did. And they went to get their bag of gold or whatever it was. And the Roman general turned around and said, Rome does not pay traitors. It stayed with me because it sounded very, very honorable, a very honorable thing to say. Rome does not pay traitors. I learned later on, actually, that it was not a question of honor at all, that the general was as corrupt as the traitors were. And even though he promised them money, then he kept it for himself, kind of thing. But anyway, never mind. Okay, so that is what are the Turks and the Azerbaijan leaders being promised? Remember, you're dispensable. Okay, that's my second point. My third point: the AIPAC lobby in Congress in the United States. We all know about them now. Apparently, they meet once a year to celebrate their accomplishments. I thought, but at the same time, I thought not long ago, when was it, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, when President Trump went there to speak to Arab leaders. Where did he go? He went to Saudi Arabia, right? Yeah, he was actually asking for money, basically. But this prompted me to think, well, okay, so the lobby for Israel is very powerful in the United States. The Arab world, all those countries, are very wealthy. They, I suppose, have a lobby of their own. Well, if they don't, that surely they do have, obviously. Perhaps not as powerful, but could they make it as powerful? After all, they do have quite a lot of money. So, and Israel doesn't. I mean, what do they get from Israel, the United States? What do they actually get themselves, the United States, from Israel? Well, it is the United States that pays them, I think is, $5 billion a year. Okay, they do get wars. They do get whatever they get from Israel in favor of the United States, that benefits the United States. Okay, you can think of whatever it is that they do get. What could they get from the Arab world if they had a lobby as powerful as AIPAC? Because the Arabs would not be asking the United States for money. They wouldn't have to give them aid or anything else like that. Just wondering, just thoughts on my mind. What is it that the United States gets from Israel and from all the Arab world, the Arab countries? Point number 4 about the NATO leader Rutte and Trump. That last meeting that they had in NATO, where Rutte, who's rather effeminate, I think we'll have to go into Freudian psychology here, ended up calling him daddy. And of course they were all laughing and so on. They were I think they were, in a certain sense, laughing at him, but in a different way. Laughing at President Trump, but in a different way. They laughed at him very much. So when he went during his first term, feeling very uppity, and when he started talking, they were all making faces, even very rudely, feeling very superior. They were laughing at him then. I think they were laughing at him now, but in a different way. They obviously realized that instead of fighting him openly, that he has, as we all have, our weak points, and perhaps one of President Trump's weak points is his ego, or you need to not fight him straight, but stroke his ego a little bit. And so that is what they were doing, but laughing at him in a different way. I found it distasteful. I found it disgraceful, really. It's a lack of respect. Lack of respect for President Trump, lack of self-respect for themselves, and therefore lack of respect for the countries that they are supposed to represent. That was lacking. Okay, point number 5. In dealing with the rest of the world, since we are talking about President Trump, the United States, in dealing with the rest of the world, I think the United States or the government or whoever managed to convince themselves that everything they do internationally is legal or right because they think so. And so, since for them it is right and legal, they are convinced that they have the right to enforce it on others, on other cultures. There is a lack of realization that different cultures are different cultures, that they don't see things the same way they do. There is a sort of a self-absorption here. The rules-based order is the rules of the United States, and never mind international order is our rules, and we change them according to. This is abusive, and is not going to end well. The respect for the United States is not very great at the moment, and I don't think the doing this, going about it in the right way. Point number 6. Multipolarity and the rules-based order and the empire and the one dominant hegemon, the United States. It's funny because, you know, the Treaty of Westphalia in the 1600 was precisely to fight the emperor, yes, the Roman Germanic Empire at the time, and to actually have each nation independent and sovereign. This is following religious wars and all the rest of it. But at the end, they all agreed that, look, this is my country, this is yours, and I can do, you know, my country can do things this way and yours that way. And you cannot just go about and invade and conquer your neighbor. So it was agreed that there is nations have sovereignty and independence. And this is actually what we now call, or people mean when they talk about multipolarity. Many poles or many nodes better. And isn't it funny that on the other side we have the United States or NATO, or who wants, or the deep state or the globalists who want the one hegemon, the one empire. I find it fascinating because it was those that are now defending the United States, or the representing the globalists, although they don't represent the people, but anyway, this unit here that tries to be the one dominant power in the world, that it was in these countries that they were fighting for the sovereignty of nations. And it is the other countries who were naturally sort of more autocratic by culture, empires, Russia, China, the ones, Persia, the ones that are emphasizing the sovereignty of nations. Isn't that peculiar how things turn around? What else? I find another thing that is very peculiar, and that is Germany and the current Chancellor, Merz, and their attitude to Russia. Of course, they were always, with Scholz, was obviously they were always there, for Ukraine, helping Ukraine and against Russia. But what I find a little bit peculiar, you see, the British and the French. Okay, the British Prime Minister on Thursday, this coming Thursday, they're going to have another meeting, Keir Starmer and Macron, who's coming over from France, and they're going to have another meeting about Ukraine and what to do and so on. Now, I understand Britain has had this, I have to say it, this hatred for Russia. This is centuries long. Okay, so this has been going on for a long, long time. Britain will never accept a European country that can be more powerful. Okay, so in international affairs, Great Britain has never tried to be the one sole dominant power in Europe. Its role was always to make sure that no one else is. Okay, to break power. Now, Russia could be at the moment, if they work together with Germany, very powerful, that relationship. So I find, I'm not surprised at Britain wanting to continue this dream of breaking up Russia into different sections, into different countries, as they did in Latin America. I don't find that surprising. The French, Macron, sometimes they're all over the place. Okay. But Germany, I I don't understand how they don't understand that they're following Britain here, and I don't see how they don't understand that following Britain's steps is not in their favor. I don't understand Germany's dislike, let's say, for Russia at the moment. Well, the Chancellor's, people are saying his father or grandfather was in the party in the 1930s, not just as a soldier. He was a person with power up in the hierarchy, in the military hierarchy. Perhaps he has a certain hatred, perhaps, for Russia because of that, what happened, and so on. Because I think this is personal, because it doesn't make sense that Germany is falling into the trap of that Britain has always put there in this fight within European nations to see who is powerful and who is not. I find it strange that they don't see it. Tell me why you think that is. There has to be a reason. What else there? Point number 9, yes, Gaza. Gaza and the silence of the West here. What are we going to do when it is all over? Because it's going to be all over one way or another way, but one day is going to end in some way. And how should the population of our countries handle or deal with the leaders that allowed this and looked the other way? I just find it amazing. I can't understand it. I don't know what's happened there to human beings, because to actually, if you see some videos, I try not to watch them because I do get upset actually, but somehow I don't look for them, but somehow I'm watching something else or I'm listening to someone and then they put this video, and then the last video I saw was of little children sort of scraping a few grains of rice from a pot, and it was and they just had a few grains of rice, and then okay, so and we are told, and apparently there are videos there, and I don't want to watch them, that as they approach these places that are, the Israeli soldiers are there guarding the food thing, and they come over and they shoot them. I can't. You're actually shooting civilians right there that are that you actually say this is where the food is, and they go there and you shoot them. What has happened? Something has happened here to human beings that to me is just impossible to understand. The dehumanization. I have to think about this more. How do we get to that point? Because all of us can get to that point. We know that, given certain circumstances. Oh no, not me. Well, we all say not me, but somehow ordinary human beings get to the point where, to that extreme. I have to think more about this, about how do we get to that dehumanization. So I have no answer there at all. It's most peculiar, though. Anyway, and the last point, 10 points, and this is the last one, is to do with religion. I just heard that the state of Seattle apparently demands for Catholic priests to seal the to break the seal of confession. I'm laughing. I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing, because it's just, and the reason they have to give a good reason. They have to have a story. Of course, child abuse. Oh, someone confesses of child abuse. So if you don't break the seal of confession, then you are helping child abusers. All right. We know how an issue is used always. This would be the beginning. It's not going to stop there. I mean, it's actually to break it so that then you break it open completely. It's the same with abortion. Remember abortion in the 60s? It was for mothers, the victims of rape and incest. How can you possibly... It always starts with something that you can say, oh, no. The seal of confession cannot be broken. It has never been broken. I have to look at who and who is behind, who actually thought of this. Let's this great idea. Let's look at who proposed that and who elected him or her, or what is behind all this. Well, behind, we know, is one more punch at the Catholic Church, because it's the only church that is actually is the last bastion of Christianity. You break the Catholic Church in the West, and there is nothing left of Christianity. Yeah. So, no, what is going to have to tell those people with those great ideas about breaking the the seal of confession, that they will have to imprison every Catholic priest in the land and every bishop in the land. Yeah? Now, go for it. Try it. Try it. We have to find out how this came about. Sometimes state politicians have these great ideas. You remember in New York, I forget the names, with Donald Trump. Yes, I'm going to get him, that is their way of thinking that they're going to become important. No, it's not going to happen, my dears. Forget about it. Whoever is advising you to do that is... This leads me to the Pope. I want to say that, something about him. Because I don't know whether you saw my video about when he got elected, and I was so relieved. I was so relieved because I knew straight away that at least he wouldn't be worse than the other one, Bergoglio, a plant. He wasn't a Catholic. He was the ultimate in trying to destroy the Catholic Church. Okay, so we have seen... I actually did a video with him because there was people saying that criticizing him already and so on. And I did a video showing how when the COVID started in 2020, that he was a bishop in some place in Peru, right? And there is a video and photographs of him that people took. That what he did was to take the Blessed Sacrament through the streets of the town. And I said, this person is Catholic, and I made my point. I thought it was a good point, that would have been the natural thing to do for someone who's Catholic. And for a bishop, for a priest, in a moment of an emergency, that's the reaction, the natural reaction. So I said, look, I am very hopeful. At least we have a person who is a Catholic. I mean, it's not too much to ask. I hear now commentaries about the fact that with these new lies that Bergoglio was telling, was not the only one, but for some people, let me get to the point. For some people, he's not going fast enough into, about the liturgy and allowing the liturgy of 2,000 years destroyed by the modernists, who Protestantized it, another blow at the Catholic Church. But in any case, they are criticizing him. He has to make a decision. He has to. I think. Excuse me. I'm going to give you my 2 cents. And I think he's right in what he's doing and how he's doing it. The church was so divided that to now say yes or no, and the pendulum going one way or another way, I think he wants to do it slowly, step by step. Now, this could be criticized, saying, well, this is not a good approach because this is something urgent. But the Catholic thing here is not that he is being prudent, which could be argued that he is. I'm going to defend him not because I think he's being prudent, but because I think he wants to actually do it in a very Catholic way, through example. It's going to take a little while, but he's going to do it through example, by example. So, I say this because, and this is more durable. No one will feel attacked. No one will feel, if he wants to bring unity, it will have to be by example. And so he's trying a few prayers here, a few songs there. The Latin is coming back. No one is going, oh my God. People are getting used to it. People will get more used to it. In other words, he's going to get there simply by him doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if he now, every now and then, celebrates the Mass, the real Mass. Okay? Not every day, from time to time, and then it will become normal. And then I think he's going to do it that way. I heard some comments saying, but you see, obviously he's a child of Vatican II and this and that. Well, not. Yes, obviously he was ordained priest, after Vatican II and so on. But my point is that he is 69 years old, which means that when he had his first communion, let's say at 7, he had done that in the old rite. So, okay, 7 or 8 is not, is not enough, you might say. I think it is. I go by my own formation with the nuns, and I think it is. I don't think that he would play as his brothers say that he would play. He always wanted to play at being priest and giving them communion, which might have been quite a little bit of a nuisance for the other two brothers. Okay, come on, kneel down, I'll give you... I don't think he could have had that thought in his mind as a child without reference to the old Mass. I don't think he would have done that if all he ever knew, he never attended the old liturgy, all he knew was the new Mass. He wouldn't. I don't think he would. Anyway, those are my thoughts, but by example. He will do it by example. So in this case, patience is also prudence. And that's it. That's it for today. And I'm going to talk... never mind. I won't tell you what I'm going to talk next. That's it. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Bye.